everybody, and welcome. This is Band of Badgers, and this is our Q&A. With this time, Richard Denning, all the way from UK Games Expo. We've just had a bit of a debrief, a brain dump of information, and I was just chatting with Steve just as we was in the green room just there. I'm really excited by this because by the time this video, when we put this on YouTube, it will be May, which means we are on the countdown to Games Expo, which I've now got goosebumps as I'm talking about it. That's how excited I am about Games Expo. I love it every year. But thank you, Richard. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sparing the time.
No, I'm panicking because I've only got a month to show.
That's what I was waiting for. Yeah, it's a
28 days.
In fact, today is D-Day, one of my D-Days, which is I have to hand in the maps, hand in the power orders, the furniture orders.
Wow.
Essentially is unchangeable through to the show, basically. So
you're now set in stone. Yeah, so be warned, if you're a vendor or a visitor, if you haven't been there before, definitely if you're a vendor, it's too late. Maybe. We have to see. But again, thank you so much for joining us. I know it is a very, very busy time of year for you. So, and we've been trying to fit this in for a while now. So it's great to have you here. So we're going to have maybe half hour, 30 minutes. We're going to pick your brains because we love interviewing different kind of creators and artists from the tabletop and gaming industry. You're our first convention interview. So it's one of those things. As a fan of the UK Games Expo, it's one of the biggest events on the UK calendar. We have people coming from all over the world, not just the UK, but from Europe, from the States, from everywhere, who come and showcase, who use UK Games Expo as a platform for games, small dealers, small entrepreneurs, small creators, and big branded names as well. How you mentioned floor plans? How do you fit them all in? It seems like a jigsaw puzzle to me. How do you do it?
Yeah, so it's believe it. The first time we did the plans for the NEC, the very first year we were here at the NEC, we actually used Lego.
Oh wow! Okay.
So previously we'd been at two venues. The expo first started at the Clarendon Suites, which is a sort of a Sonic Lodge banqueting hall type place on the Hagley Road. Now it's been knocked down now, but basically that's a much smaller venue, about 700, 800 square meters, and I think it was 2,000 in all we got to use over the 6 years. Finally, they had plans, and it's relatively easy for that amount of space to sort of map it all out and start to think what you're going to do with it. But as things get bigger and bigger, yes, you do have to sit down and really have a think about how you're going to best use the space. So once we finally got to the NEC, how the heck do we 14,000 square meters of Hall 1? So we literally built it with each little sort of dimple on a Lego was 50 centimeters. So that scale, the hall was, I can't remember well, it was sort of 8 foot by 8 foot. And then we got down and started, so each block, 2 meters by 2 meters, you'd be getting all these little Lego blocks and plonking them in and working it out. So once we'd done that, we then realized after a while, it's actually quite difficult to get Lego pieces off. Unless you've got that tool, there's a little tool, isn't there?
Yeah, the little orange thing. Yeah.
So we decided we've got to move this entire row. It's sort of great. Now we're going to get blisters on our fingers and things. But no, so it took quite a bit of effort to try and work out those. How do you line them out? Where do you put your aisles? And the pillars are a nightmare. They always end up in the middle of an aisle, and you can't have that. So it does require quite a bit of working out to do. And then we'll publish an outline of those blocks in our exhibitor pack when we go to Essen as when it all starts. We go to Essen in October, and we have officers, and we see about 200 plus exhibitors in 4 days. All we see at Essen is a 4x4 office where we're sitting in it with computers and floor plans, and literally it'll be we've got a bit of hierarchy mechanisms. Sponsors get to choose first, and so on, and folk who have been before will get first dibs going back into their spot, and then you release it to the horse trading that goes on and the chaos for 4 days, and things are coming in and you're slapping them on the map, and it usually takes a month or so after Essen for us to come back and actually get it mapped out. And then once that's done, then it's easier because you can sort of sell space that's left. But you have this sort of phase that we sometimes called Schrodinger's convention, because it's sort of it's sort of bits of flow in the cafe, sort of piazza, and all that sort of stuff, and it all finally gets to home somewhere.
Fantastic. You mentioned, so we were talking about how big a platform it is, especially with different countries coming to the UK. What makes the UK Games Expo so appealing? How does it compare to other gaming conventions globally? I mean, we know Gen Con and we know Essen, but it's big. It's family friendly. There's stuff going inside, outside, connected to it. There's stuff going on at night.
Yeah, I mean, when we started it out, I'd heard of Gen Con. I hadn't been to it back then, but I heard of it. I'd read a lot of. I don't know if you come across a magazine called The Knights of the Dinner Table.
Yes.
We were talking about that last night.
And they go to what they call GaryCon.
Yes.
It was a big convention, and everything used to happen at GaryCon, all sorts of events and things. I always think, well, it'd be great to have something like that, here. But there was a Gen Con UK, but it was ran for a certain number of years. But it was a sort of smaller affair and predominantly very much RPG focused only. And we wanted not just RPG, which we certainly are very keen on, but everything, board games and miniatures and family and everything. At the same time, you look at Essen, and Essen is great for what it is, which is this enormous board game convention with all the new stuff comes out there, and it's vast, and it's your best opportunity to sort of sit down and demo hundreds of games. But we didn't just want a big trade hall; we wanted events and things happening. So it became something of a hybrid between Gen Con, or GaryCon, as I was reading about it, and Gen Con as I eventually got to see, and Essen, sort of with our own spin. And I think what some of the folk that go to quite a few of the shows tend to say is each of the big shows does have its own vibe, and Essen is very much about the new releases from the board games industry and the trying them out. Gen Con is very focused on events. It does have a trade hall. It's a big trade hall, but it's vast amounts of event space in like every surrounding hotel, you work it all out. Well, even the football stadium there, the Lucas, what's it called?
I've seen the pictures. Yeah,
stadium. They use that for events and things, and so it's very much about that. We've got bits of those things, but also what people quite often say is Expo is a place that you go to sort of play the games a lot.
Yes,
we certainly have a lot more open gaming space than either of those shows, as in dedicated, identified, open gaming space.
And we love that as well. We like Shatterpoint has been a big part, not just on our channel for us this year, but last year at Games Expo, it was huge. I mean, Marvel Crisis Protocol, having those demo tables when you walk in is absolutely fantastic. Everyone can take you through the game. Here's an introduction. It's not like when you get the smaller vendors and they have something to the side of their booth. These are huge roped off areas where you queue up to get in. It's fabulous. It's great because you get access to the game. It's not just buy the game, take it home and learn.
But you can play it.
You can play it there. Yeah.
So I mean, this year the trade halls will be, I think, the biggest we'll ever had. We are using 3 and a bit trade halls. So there's been a bit of a rearrangement of halls compared to last year because we lost for a while hall 1, and then they gave it back to us about a month ago. But by then it was too late to think about that. So that's now a ticketing hall, and the bring them by, and then halls 2, 3, 3A, and a bit of 4 is going to be trade. So we're looking at over 750 exhibitors, 32,000 square meters of trade space, which is actually a little bit bigger than Gen Con's trade hall for the first time this year. Half the size of Essen, because Essen is huge for a trade hall.
Yeah.
But in terms of trade hall, it's we think we might have the second largest trade hall in the world this year, but we'll sit down and we'll do the maths and try and work it out. But it's certainly going to be up there.
I mean, we use like the trade hall is so big that we do a lot of we partner up with a lot of free league stuff. So when Dave C. Malcolm and Matt Tyler are there, the free league have that kind of circular dome.
Yeah,
that's our only point of reference. We're in the swarm of shoppers on the expo hall. I mean, it's like, well, where do we go? Look to the stars.
Up to the banners.
And that's it. That's your reference as you navigate. It is big, but because wasn't Tesla supposed to were in the hall at the same time, and that's why I say we, but Games Expo had to move? Was it Tesla was taking up some of the space?
All sorts of rumours about what was going to be in Hall 1.
Right.
Some of the people have said there was some virtual reality. They sometimes will install because the thing was it was going to take over Hall 1 for about a year and a half or something like that, or at least a year. So this has happened before with things like there was a sort of time travel. Back to dinosaur age immersive experiencey thing a couple of years ago, which took over Hall 2. So they convert the whole hall into this thing, and you go in and you work your way around the rooms and things. And so when those sorts of things come in, they take over the halls for long periods of time. And we still don't know. They won't even say exactly who it was, but whoever it was eventually dropped out. But unfortunately, when we were told last time round, we just had to say to the exhibitors, well, we've lost Hall 1, which means revising all the hall plans. But I think actually the end result's going to be okay, because all that means that 2, 3, 3A, and 4 are all on the same level. Which 1 is down a bit down the ramp, but once you've got your tickets and you're up in the halls, then you don't have to go up and down the stairs or the ramps and things when you're navigating around those bits, which I think will be better for accessibility and things for some people as well. But also just it was always a bit of a crush, those stairs between 1 and 2. Although it was a nice place to stand and take photos, which was also the problem that it was a crush.
It was a great place to stand there and just take in how many people were actually there, because it's an impressive outlook. You stood on that balcony and you're looking just out over Hall 1 and think, well, this is half of what the trade hall is.
But I think this year is going to be interesting. There'll be 1 or 2 places which will be now, because of all the halls will be connected directly, apart from 1 will be separate because it's ticketing. But it means that 2, 3, 3A, and 4 will all connect together without any barriers in between, apart from at the end of the trade day, when we just have to block off the bit of 4 from the rest of 4, which is gaming, just for security of people's stock and stuff. But that means you can stand at one end of 3 and see all the way down to the other end of 3A, which is going to be a huge, there'll be like a lot, almost like looking down a motorway sort of thing, of a long run and things. So no, it's going to be impressive, I think. And as you say, lots and lots of this huge stands, some of them over 300 plus square meters of space that some of the big folk are taking, the Asmodee group and this sort of thing.
You might need to get some branded UK Games Expo scooters or golf carts or something like that. Go up and down.
We're thinking about this because my fellow director Tony's been having a bit of gout lately, so he's been limping around. I've got a bit of arthritis. I'm thinking by the time I wandered around that for once or twice, it's gonna start to
it's gonna hurt.
You'll have to get some drone footage or something as well.
We'd love to do something. Problem is, at the moment they're not very keen on drones flying over the thing while it's in show. Might manage to get away with having one hovering somewhere in the setup period, perhaps at some stage. But during the show, I think the worry is if it breaks, failed and landed on someone's head or something. But it does sound like it would be fun to do sometime. We usually get people up onto the gantries, so there are some gantries that you can, with a bit of negotiation, get up on and take the odd photo from, which is quite, that's where some of the shots we often have are taken from, because again you get nice and high up and things, which is good.
I was talking about like the creators and small creators who use UK Games Expo as like a launch pad. How do you think, or do you know of many companies who have grown specifically because of Games Expo? What kind of role do you think it plays in both board game industry and the tabletop industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, we know that for the very first year, we had for example, Coiled Spring, who come to the show each year. Their thing they predominantly are doing is family and children's games, and a lot of them are imported from Europe, Germany, and places like that. They're all part of the Asmodee group nowadays, but way back then in the very first year, they came and had a 6-foot table. Had their games on it and things like that, and now they're one of the sponsors of part of the Family Zone, and they have quite a large, 100 and something square meters of stand space themselves, all part of this larger Asmodee group. We're certainly aware of quite a few companies that started off as little starter stands, and 1 or 2 of them have ended up being got a bump and exploded and sort of had amazing Kickstarter campaigns and then become sponsors and things like that. So it is nice to see the growth of it all. And so some of the nice things each year is to go around and have a look at those new ones, those little stands that are coming for the first time, and just think, okay, well, one or two of these could be the next big thing. The next. They've got, there usually are a few treasures, a few little gems that you come across on one or two of them.
They're nice to see, actually, because where we do various interviews and we talk to like various creators and stuff who are there. If various creators are watching this and you fancy having a chat with us, we're more than happy to. We just grab the phone and the video camera. Well, the phone is the video camera now. We just ask you some questions. We were talking about it before as well, and I want to pick your kind of best memorable moments as well on this. But one of the things I found out Games Expo, so in Birmingham, I don't know if it was the first time that you guys were at the Hilton, just the Hilton, before it was at NEC. And I shouldn't say this, but I was at a wedding, supposed to be in the Hilton for a wedding, and I was there. And while I was there, in the bar and walking around, I kept noticing people carrying board games or things. I'm like, what's going on? That looks good. What's that? I know that game. And every now and then, I was bumping into people in the corridors and whatnot. If my cousin's watching this, I'm sorry. I pretended to be sick. So I got a ticket. I bought my ticket and I went into the gaming area, and I met so many people playing games. We played on until like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, which we probably shouldn't have been doing. And it was amazing. We were playing in like the bar area, and these are still people that we meet. So on the back of that, I managed to tell my wife, we're going next year, whatever this is. We're going to go again next year if this is a regular thing. We did. I've talked Steve into going. We've been going ever since. And the group that we meet there, after hours in the bar in Hilton, is growing and growing and growing, and we love it. Everyone's doing tournaments. You do tournaments. Where everyone's playing co-op. We played Dragon Bane last year. I think Dragon Bane's coming back again.
And Highlander.
I won the Highlander one. You could win the Highlander sword. That was amazing. So there were all of these little bits and pieces. It's become like a big kids holiday. It's fantastic. You go there and there is like everything you could ever. It's Christmas for grown-ups, for big kids. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is a bit like that. In fact, I think my other director, Tony, we usually write an introduction somewhere to the program. We sort of take it in turns usually to write something, or a kind of a director's piece, depending on if there's a spare bit of space at the get towards the show. And I remember one year he described it more pretty much like that as we'd got everything set up and we knew that across the road, as it were, for when we were going to go back in the morning, there was going to be this big Christmas present we're going to open up for everybody, all the game and things. And I particularly I realised was the case when we went to the NEC for the very first year, that there was a bit of a sort of a step change from being in the sort of the original Clarendon Suites, which, as I said, was Masonic Lodge, to a hotel to
we
a
have got some photos actually. Shall I put them up while you're talking?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's fun to see the changes and things, and that this is the old Clarendon Suites. This was so you notice there's no windows. So only place of windows I think was the kitchens or something. So this was very much a sort of, we started off like this, just tables and chairs, and exhibitors would come and have a small amount of space, and maybe 20-30 of them or something. Stephen Ian came for the first time, signing their books, and did a talk about the history of
I know those guys very well. Yeah.
And this was one of the first. This is the beginnings of the seminar track, really. We started thinking, so there'll be 9, and he was there that year, and that was nice to start having a few guests and a few celebrities once in a while. And
that's also grown as well. I mean, we've had some really big, not just from the gaming community, but there's been some fantastic people who are visiting Games Expo, who get involved. I met Ronnie a long time ago at a comic convention, and unfortunately I hit him with the toilet door, but that's a different story.
But yeah, so no, it's and so this place was, and there was our previous one. There was actually some slight a flag on the wall, and we noticed there was around the place. Yeah, there's all this because it's a Masonic lodge. There were all these kind of Masonic memorabilia.
Yeah.
And we used to joke about the fact that it was the one time you could go to a place where the environment was slightly weirder than the people going.
Yeah.
But a great place to play role playing games in, because it's quite atmospheric, particularly I know something like Call of Cthulhu or something.
Yeah.
But eventually they had to. They gave us more and more of the rooms. But as that happened, some of these rooms were obviously special rooms. And at one point, my wife is very much involved with the show, and she heard one of them walking past to say, "We must remove the suitcase of sacrifice," or whatever it was. And so they rushed into a room and came out with a suitcase that was clanking slightly. So I'm not sure what was in there.
That's it. Yeah.
And we used the whole place, and he got to the place right at the end. As we left, we worked the maps out. We remapped the place for them. We actually presented them with the maps that we'd done, which are more accurate than their original maps. And we realised there was a space in the middle of the Caradon suite, which didn't seem to have anything in. So we've all played D&D, so you thought, hang on a minute, there's got to be a secret chamber in there. So we asked them about it, and they said, no, we can't tell you about that. That's nothing there, nothing. It's your inner sanctum, isn't it? It's your holy of holies or something. And they say, can't confirm that. So I wish it actually got there when they were knocking it down to see if the theories were right. So then we moved on to the Hilton. That's now, it went from 2,200 square meters to the Hilton is there about 5,500. I think we used 2/3 of it one year, but we're still at a kind of level of still doing a lot of it yourself. So you see these like white tapes on the floor. So that's very much marked out. We'd have a markup crew that would come, which would come in starting about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, whenever they gave us access, and they'd have to go through and mark up all the trade areas with tape.
I think that's another thing as well, is that people don't realize how hard you guys work. It's not just organizing. It is late nights, a mad rush to do this as well. And then at the end, clean up.
Yes.
So it's like,
work. I mean, to begin with, because we all had the day jobs and things back in the day. We are now a company. This is our day job now. But for many years, I was a GP, so a family doctor. So I worked through to 2017. So the first 10, 11 years of the show, I was doing full-time doctoring, as it were. My fellow directors at IT, sort of professional websites and things like that. As well as sort of church minister, so he's quite busy. And for a long time, there wasn't anything significant in terms of any sort of profit coming out of this. So out of the first 6 years, I think we bought me an iPad so I could go around shows and talk to exhibitors with the floor plans on, and that sort of thing. That was literally about all we got out of it. And then we got to a point where we actually had we had a meeting with Peter Atkinson, who's the owner of GenCon. Tony, the director, went over and he asked him to see us because he could see the show was growing. So Tony spoke and he said, look, you've got a problem in that your show is growing. You need staff and you need facilities, you need offices, but you can't afford it. And you just have to work through that phase. And then if it continues to grow, you will get to the point that you can pay yourself and you can have an offices and everything. And he did do that, but it did take until about the first year or so of the NEC that we got to the point that we could now finally have an administrator, and Tony started working for the company, and then I left the NHS finally 2-3 years before a pandemic hits. I did go back and do a bit of retraining for vaccines and things like that. But basically, it was getting to the stage that we were using I was doing as many hours on this as the medicine. And obviously that's just crazy. So you get to a point where you can't. And the pivotal moment was when a patient walked in, collapsed on the floor. We were starting to, resuscitate and get the ambulance on the way. And my fellow director, Tony, phoned me, said, I've got a problem. And I said, well, I've got a problem here as well. And they, are they alive? I said, well, they are at the moment, but we're hoping that's going to continue. He says, you have to phone back later. And realise, okay, we're now we're getting conflicts of interest and, and I need to make a decision. So I thought, well, we got to the point that we could afford to pay ourselves, and and that's just history, as they say. So when we moved in, we moved there, which we thought the Hilton would do us for a long time. We never thought we would need more than that because there hadn't been any shows on the scale that Expo has got to at all in the UK ever. So we used to joke about, can we get 5,000 people? He said, well, Sloot sometimes gets up to about 8,000. So what about 10,000 then? And as the shows got bigger and 15, then we stopped just asking the question because it was obvious the thing was still growing. But then that was where the need was, because the Hilton we basically filled up in 2 years. We had a third year, and there was one year, I don't know if you recall, we had a marquee in the car park, which is shoved lots of chairs in.
I mean, there was literally, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I mean, you're hitting numbers like 25,000 people in a day on a weekend. I mean, this event is just, for those of you who don't know, who are watching this because you don't yet know what Games Expo is, or you haven't been yet, and you're watching these videos to kind of decide. It is an amazing venue, but it's only on for what, 3 days?
Yeah.
And that kind of sounds like a lot. It's not. It is so much stuff to see, people to meet, playing games, demo games you've never even heard of, games from the other side of the planet, new game creators, just these ideas of games, and it's the people are wonderful. Whether it's the organizers, thank you, Richard, again. Whether it's the organizers or the people you play games and meet there, the people I've met have become lifelong friends. Thank you very much. Hello, you all know who you are. And again, we're looking forward to seeing them again this time. It is
that's probably my favourite part of the whole thing. I mean, it's great to have the shows, great to have all the games there, and that's obviously the reason for doing it. But ultimately, it's meeting again the people, and there's a bit of a cycle of the shows through the year, and Essen and Gen Con and things like that, and so it's all the same, all the usual suspects, as it were, sort of turn up at these things. And there's always a chapter in Lord of the Rings, isn't there, called Many Meetings, I think, which is the Rivendell meeting chapter. But basically, it reminds me of that, because you suddenly you're bumping into hundreds of people, walking down a corridor and things. My brain's getting a bit older, so I remember most people, but sometimes you do go, "Oh, hello, Richard." And you say, "Oh, hi, you. How's it been?" And hopefully, eventually, remember who they were. But no, it's nice. It's a good community, and the gamers, the producers, the designers, everyone involved in it pretty much is because most people that go are gamers themselves fundamentally. It's rare. You have few people who this is just a day job, as it were, but actually for most of them, it's also what they choose to do as a hobby.
The industry as a whole. I mean, we had COVID, and there was a big boost to tabletop gaming as a whole. It was D&D, it was role playing games, it was board games, because people wanted that community. People wanted to have people around the table. And me and Steve are guilty of this before COVID, many years ago, which is why we started Band of Badgers. We were playing Xbox, and we all had broadband. And then we realized, hold on, when was the last? We spoke every week. We played the same game every week. And then we realized, well, when was the last time we met each other? When was the last? Oh, it was a couple of weeks. It was a couple of months, maybe. It was like, no, it's been a year.
15 months ago.
Yeah.
I was like, no, how? But it's not like we'd lost contact. We'd just been playing games, and that was it. So we're like, let's change this. We've got to do something. And that's how Band of Badgers exploded into a social community here near Gatwick. Again, for those of you who are in Gatwick area, hello. There is a big Haven Club down here, so come and say hi. But just to come back on how big Expo is, again, these photos here. If people are worried by crowds and stuff, don't be, because these are the friendliest crowds you're ever likely to meet. You can be standing in a queue and see that someone's got the same sticker as you on their bag, or someone will tap you on the shoulder and go, "Oh, that thing that you've got, you've got a lightsaber. I'm mad on Star Wars," and you'll talk for an hour on Star Wars alone. It is fantastic. And here's some of the stairs, different gaming rooms. They're all situated all over the place. They are fantastic.
And that's the other thing as well, is that these gaming spaces, they're dotted all around the Hilton, as well as the gaming space that you've got in the NEC. They're busy all day long. I mean, because we came out of the Highlander tournament at I think it was 1 a.m. last year, And there was still the gaming space, which is on the opposite side of that corridor, was still full.
People will game on until, I think technically the entertainment license in the Hilton's for something like 2 a.m. or something. So around that time the security start to sort of, but until that point in time, the people are playing on, you're often quite late into the evening, aren't they? Which is great to see. And these other things are some of the fun bits as well. The Vikings.
They've been
with us since the Clarendon Suite days, and come back every year, and that's great for the families. Of course, they'll do these stage battles, talks on aspects of Viking times as a small Roman group, an Anglo-Saxon group with them, and but there's also kiddie Vike usually, so something the kids can get these foam swords or something, and beat the heck out of the the Vikings. They actually run some D&D sessions in the Viking camp. There's a few. There's not many slots of it, but there's a few actually sat around the table in the Viking camp. We can play D&D and things, which is pretty cool, really.
I love it when you see the Vikings come into the hall, and then they're doing a march, or the horns will go off. They do a march, and then some. I don't know if it's on purpose. But I'm assuming it is. But the Vikings versus stormtroopers, and then you might have a weird standoff. Or I think last year you had the Warhammer. We had quite a few Space Marines walking around, and then it was Vikings versus Space Marines, which was very odd to see, but fantastic. I mean, what a moment! How is all of this? How is community engagement important to this kind of event?
Well, I think the thing about this, of course, is there are lots of different communities, and they all overlap at this point. So you've got the gamers who are going along, and board gamers, role players, war gamers, and some people are fairly focused within their thing. Other people are a bit of a Venn diagram going on. I mean, I literally play anything pretty much. So and it's nice to see that kind of thing happening, where people sometimes in the past we've had because there's a bit of a different dynamic in different shows in the country, and the war gamers go into a war games tournament are used to just paying for the tournament and not like anything much to get into the show generally. And you say, well, you have to have a ticket for the show, and they say, oh well, we're never going to go around and see any of that or do any of the rest of it. And then the following year, sometimes you're organising, and say, well, we don't want it to be a 2-day tournament this year because we want to have a day to be able to see the show. So you realise people see there's more going on than just their particular thing, and that's great. And the same is true outside, beyond the gaming stuff. The Vikings, the cosplayers, and things, and they all have their own groups, but they all get very much. There's got kind of an overlap between them, and as you say, there's moments we see some quite fun photos and standoffs between the different groups at times is quite entertaining.
It is. I mean, and they are the people are very, very friendly. We've had a ton of photos taken with them. We do every year just because it's something different. And having a selfie with a Space Marine, and my boy is 10 years old. He's just getting into Warhammer. He's very much into Star Wars and stuff like that. Yeah. He's just getting into Warhammer. But me showing him a photo, and the Space Marines are pretty tall as well because they walk on stilts or elevated boots. Yeah. And you're like, hi. Yeah, and I send that home and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to when my boy's going to come with me, because we stay up till very late and we start very early, and we do loads of interviews. We play games with people, we run games, and then we have dinners and stuff in the evening. It's very busy. So him being 10, he's probably going to get tired very, very quickly. But we're definitely looking forward to bringing him along.
Yeah, and it's plenty for that age group at the show, and even a little bit younger. I mean, the children's role playing, they'll take people from as young as something like about 7-ish or so, I think even slightly younger, for that kind of very trimmed back D&D type, 45-minute game or something, which is just you do a couple of combats or something in a boss monster type situation, and but they're very popular, and of course a lot of what we put in is for the families, and that's because when we started this out, 2007, my daughter was 10, my son at that point was 4 or something. So we wanted to be able to take our kids along, and that's really where the family zone started from, because we wanted to be able to have them there and at the show, rather than having to just abandon them somewhere. We thought, well, it would be great if they could be part of this as well. So from the very early years, the family zone has been key bit of the show. I think lots of families just spend the day in that zone.
My boy is very keen. He really wants. So this year we've been watching Mandalorian and all the Star Wars movies, and he's been getting really into it. He's desperate for a lightsaber. So that's my number one item this year. I need to pick up a lightsaber. I have asked him what color. He wants red. I'm a bit worried. We'll see what we can do.
we actually got a group at the show that actually do lessons in lightsaber. Combat. It was the first time last year, and they're back this year, so that's quite fun.
That was great to watch. Actually, that was a lot of fun to watch. I should have had a go, really, but maybe this year I'll be brave enough to have a go. But looking forward to it. So we're gonna. Well, I just noticed the time. We're gonna get closing up here. How do you see? It's basically the UK market. What is the future of tabletop gaming? Because right now in 2025, there's a lot going on.
Yes,
and it's a bit worrying now with economics and things going on in different countries. What's happening in the UK? Do you get a flavour for what's going on? How people are talking to you?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the industry has, and I guess we've been lucky to some extent ride the wave of this. As there's been this expansion of the tabletop industry for the last 2 decades. A lot of that has been done to popularity of certain TV shows like The Big Bang Theory, Stranger Things, and so on, and shops and cafes, games cafes opening all over the place. So definitely there's been a significant growth in the last 20 odd years in worldwide, but also in the UK. And I think I can't see any reason why that shouldn't continue. Where there is certainly going to be a time where I'm trying to work out what's going to happen with it is, of course, the impacts of everything happening in America at the moment in terms of the industry, because the American industry, the games industry, is so reliant on their games are made in China, and at the moment they've got problems, and quite a few of the companies we're hearing from are having problems, and whether that will eventually get resolved, and I'm hoping it will. I think this year probably the various conventions and things will get through, because the games have hopefully already been made and so on. But certainly, if it continues, that's likely to have an impact on the balance of the industry, shall we say. So you may well find that there's a swing towards more stuff being made in Europe, and then away from China, perhaps. But of course, things don't just flip overnight. And is there enough supply chains, all that sort of stuff? And I know I've got 1 or 2 of my own games I'm working on at the moment, talking to manufacturers, and they're having supply issues because lots of the wooden bits and pretty much all the plastic bits come from China. So how's that resolved? So I think there's going to be there could well be changes in who are the bigger companies, what gets made when and how, and timescales. I think there is the rest of the world, and ourselves, European convention, there's plenty of European conventions, Australian ones, so the industry should be able to continue. But I think it's there may be a bit of a pivoting in terms of what happens, particularly, and it'd be interesting to see Gen Con this year, what the impact has had by that time. Hopefully, everyone hopes, of course, that things will calm down a bit, and hopefully, they'll manage to sort themselves out. But
I hope so as well. I mean, as we were talking about before we start the interview, is it'd be our first time going to Gen Con. And we've seen the photos, we've seen the stuff. We hope that this isn't a sudden. We hope it's a speed bump. We hope that it won't affect Gen Con that much. But some of the rumors we're hearing, we don't know. But I think whatever happens, we're going to meet up with some friendly faces. Everyone still loves games. It's going to be. I'm treating it like a holiday. I'm going out for 7 days. For me, it's going to be a break from everything, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Wrapping this up in a little bit, what is for new attendees? What's the best piece of advice you can tell, other than comfy shoes, wear trainers, because you'll be doing a lot of walking. What is the best advice you can give to new attendees?
Well, one thing I would say is do not be afraid to just go up to a table and ask to play a game. A lot of people we're going to have a sort of finding a gamer app. I think we launched it last year, didn't get particularly used because it was a bit close to the show. I hope to make more of it this year, so you'll be able to look on find out where certain games are happening, that are sort of ad hoc ones. But don't be afraid to go up and ask to play stuff, because generally people are happy to take extra folk. Get the guide, grab hold of the guide online we'll go online when we publish we send the program to print. At that point, we usually put the thing online. So do a bit of research, get hold of the map pack. Maybe sort of do something like book a couple of things, but don't overload the day. In other words, there'll be plenty to do, but it doesn't hurt to have the odd, something in the day around which to organise the day. That could be a tournament. There are lots of little short, fancy a sort of fun tournament. I don't know, Ticket to Ride or something, or
that's
RPG.
a good one. Yeah.
Or just a one-off. They do starter role-playing games, but role-playing on demand they call it, where you can just do like a couple of hour, session. Or one of the live shows. I'd certainly recommend. There's some slightly crazy live shows that we go and recruit for the Edinburgh Fringe.
Alone in the Dark.
The dark room being one. I'd hold that's good fun. Tom Crosby, who does magic and memory games and Rubik's Cube stuff, is a great one to follow. So do something like that, but mainly just just walk around and get gaming, and you'll find very quickly you'll meet people, and there's a fairly good chance if you're there completely on your own. I believe there are a few Facebook groups and things where people, so like solo gamer type, go along on their own, and there's actually groups where you can meet up with other people.
Well, that's nice. I didn't know about that.
So I'm trying to remember the name of it now. I noticed it the other day. There's a group or two out there that you can find out, but we've got a Facebook group as well. So as in you can pop on there and say where you're from and who's going to be there. But I'm sure you'll find someone to meet up with.
Yeah. Fantastic. Right, we are going to wrap it up there. So those of you who are joining us, watching us on YouTube, I should say, if you have any questions, do pop them into the comments below, and I'll pass them over to Richard, let him know it, and then we'll find out any answers for you. But other than that, by the time you watch this video, it should be May. There should be weeks to go before the event. Again, really, really looking forward to it. Richard, if I see you, I'm happily to. I always carry custard cream biscuits. That's my thing. Custard cream biscuits, cup of tea, and a custard cream biscuit. They are all yours.
It's a fresh box. It's not last year's box.
They don't last longer than a day. And I've had people come up to me now and say, "Oh, we've got custard cream biscuit." It's weird, but I go, "Yeah, it is." Well, yeah, we do enjoy it. Richard, don't go anywhere. But for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. Ta-da.